Imagine the all-too-familiar ritual. You declare war on your plate, vowing to let the hours stretch into a glorious void of no calories. Meals vanish from your calendar. Hunger pangs become your unwelcome companions, and you arm yourself with steaming mugs of jet-black coffee to fend off the void. Your eyes fixate on that merciless scale, willing the numbers to tumble like autumn leaves in a gale. Yet, day after day, it defies you, immovable, indifferent. You're deep in the trenches of fasting, but your body rebels, clutching its fat reserves as if they were sacred relics, unwilling to surrender even a whisper of fuel. Here's the reassuring truth amid the frustration. Fasting itself isn't a flawed strategy. It's your physiology that's playing a sly game of hide and seek, not aligning with the straightforward script you envisioned. Over years, decades, even, of meticulously tallying every morsel and indulging in perpetual nibbles, your metabolic engine has been subtly reprogrammed. It's learned to grip energy like a vice, hoarding it against phantom threats rather than unleashing it for the journey ahead. The overlooked architects of the standoff? Your hormones, those invisible conductors orchestrating the symphony of fat storage. Chief among them looms insulin, a titan whose influence on whether you pack on pounds or peel them off eclipses the simplistic math of intake versus expenditure that so many cling to. This veil of weight loss resistance that shrouds your fasting efforts isn't born from faltering discipline or half-hearted portion control. Far from it. It's the unmistakable footprint of a hormonal orchestra gone discordant, pulling strings in opposition to your goals. The prevailing myth whispers that depriving the body of fresh calories should instinctively pivot it toward raiding its own larders for sustenance, like a well-oiled engine idling on reserves. But oh, how that underestimates us. The human form isn't some rudimentary calorie incinerator, dutifully torching fuel based on a ledger of ins and outs. No, it's an intricate web of hormonal signals, exquisitely evolved for the raw theater of survival, bracing for famines that our ancestors etched into our very code. When the promised cascade of weight loss eludes your grasp during a fast, chalk it up not to lapse grit or fleeting resolve, but to a clarion call from within. Your hormones are staging a sit-in, barricading the path to progress. Consider the realms they govern. Your metabolic tempo, the ebb and flow of appetite, the very mechanics of fat hoarding or liberation. These aren't swayed by iron-willed decrees or the cold precision of arithmetic. They're the domain of biochemical whispers, far more potent than any spreadsheet. Presiding over this domain is insulin, the unequivocal arbiter of fat's fate. Store it away or set it ablaze. In the presence of elevated insulin, your adipose tissues transform into impenetrable fortresses, their gates bolted against any rave for energy, even as your stomach echoes with emptiness. Should lingering metabolic scars from yesteryears keep insulin perched on its lofty throne, your entire system remains ensnared in preservation mode, a vigilant sentinel against depletion rather than a willing participant in the burn. Countless enthusiasts of intermittent abstinence fall into subtle traps, unwittingly summoning insulin surges through innocuous-seeming indulgences. A dash of sweetener masquerading as harmless, a flurry of refined grains that dissolve like traitors in your blood, or those insidious mini-meals that pepper your feasting intervals like uninvited guests. The fallout? A biochemical milieu that thwarts the seamless transition into unbridled fat oxidation, keeping the flames dim. At its essence, fasting is a ritual of reduction, plummeting insulin to subterranean depths, thereby granting your fat depots the green light to disgorge their treasures. Yet life's undercurrents conspire against this purity. The relentless grind of everyday pressures, nights fractured by fitful slumber, or the shadowy interventions of pharmaceuticals can conspire to sustain both insulin and cortisol in their agitated heights, broadcasting cacophony of conflicting directives to your cells. Enter cortisol, that notorious harbinger of havoc, the stress sentinel that doesn't require a single crumb to wreak its mischief. It can conjure glucose from the ether of your own tissues, a ghostly feast that catapults insulin skyward once more. This unholy alliance ensures that weight loss grinds to a halt, impervious to the rigor of your regimen, no matter if you've abstained for a full day, a week, or longer. The scale's stoic silence? It's the echo of your internal dispatch. Fortify the stores. The siege is upon us, even as your calendar marks victory after victory in restraint. Such disharmony isn't a fleeting bruise of solitary indulgence, a midnight cookie that whispers regrets by morning. It crystallizes gradually, layer upon insidious layer, forged in the furnace of habitual overindulgence. Endless parades of snacks that blur the line between meals, a deluge of engineered edibles stripped of their natural vitality. Our contemporary feastscape is a siren song of perpetual grazing, from the dawn chorus of cereal bowls to the twilight encore of sugary send-offs, punctuated by an orchestra of in-between bites. Insulin, ever the dutiful responder, hums in perpetual alert, a constant hum that denies your physiology the sacred pauses it craves, moments to recalibrate, to mend, to dip into the well of accumulated vitality without fresh deposits muddying the waters. Fasting emerges as a great restorer, a deliberate interruption that reboots the ancestral cadence of your endocrine ensemble. It carves out intervals for insulin to ebb gracefully, extending an olive branch to your fat cells. The coast is clear. Release what you've guarded so fiercely. Yet, woven into this tapestry is another thread of complexity, insulin resistance, that stealthy saboteur where your cells, weary from a barrage, tune out insulin's pleas like a radio on the fritz. In retaliation, your pancreas mounts an overzealous counteroffensive, pumping out excess insulin in a bid to pierce the fog. What follows is a self-perpetuating spiral. Surging insulin funnels more fuel into fat, and the burgeoning bulwarks of adipose only deepen the cellular deafness, amplifying the resistance in a feedback loop of escalating entrapment. Fasting stands as a potent disruptor to this maelstrom, coaxing the cycle toward fracture. However, when resistance has entrenched itself like ancient roots, the unraveling demands not haste, but a patient apprenticeship. Your form requires epochs, weeks, perhaps months, to reacquaint itself with the subtleties of subdued insulin, retraining its responses from the ground up. In those nascent phases of abstinence, the priority shifts inward, not the dramatic divestment of pounds, but the quiet symphony of reequilibrium among your hormones. You may awaken to a surge of vitality that feels like sunlight breaking through clouds, your mind sharpening to a razor's edge, or the relentless siren of cravings fading to a distant murmur. These are the harbingers, the subtle salutes that your inner alliance is forging anew, with the scales surrender trailing in their wake. Linger not on insulin alone, for leptin enters the fray as another linchpin in the architecture of stalled progress, a messenger forged in the heart of your fat tissues, dispatched to your brain's command center with tidings of abundance. In an unscarred symphony, leptin's voice booms clear. The vaults brim with bounty, curb a hunt for more, ignite the reserves. Ample adipose should cue a cascade of restraining appetite and an uptick in expenditure, a harmonious check against excess. Alas, leptin resistance muddles this dispatch, garbling the signal until your neural navigator perceives perpetual scarcity. No matter the truth, hunger howls unchecked, your metabolic furnace idles in languor, and even amid fastings and forced thrift, your body hunkers down, mistaking the pause for peril and redoubling its grip on every gram. Mending this rift demands not flash-in-the-pan fixes, but a tapestry of tenacity, unwavering adherence to fasting's rhythm, interwoven with banquets of vitality-rich provisions during your respites, vibrant greens, whole grains pulsing with life, proteins that rebuild rather than burden. Nor can we overlook the thyroid's pivotal baton in the ballet of caloric conflagration, dictating the velocity at which your engine devours energy. When shadows of strain encroach, be it the brute force of excessive curtailment, the tempest of emotional tempests, or the grind of physical exertions untempered, it perceives threat and throttles its output, dialing down hormone production to eke out every whisper of efficiency in conservation. Metabolism molasses slows, fat's fortress walls thicken, rendering liberation a Herculean toil. This underscores fasting solitude as insufficient armor. It thrives in concert with a chorus of supports, nourishment that truly nourishes without overwhelming, sanctuaries of slumber that knit the frayed edges, interludes of repose that murmur to your form. Ease. No austerity here. Lurking beneath it all, the gut microbiome exerts its enigmatic sway, a bustling metropolis of microbes that can either amplify or undermine your hormonal harmony. A beleaguered belly, teeming with inflammatory insurgents or shadowed by bacterial brigands, exacerbates insulin's rebellion, fans the flames of systemic irritation, and scrambles the cues of satiety into static. Fasting bestows upon this ecosystem a merciful moratorium, a breathing space for benevolent strains to rally and reclaim territory, fostering a fragile peace. Yet, should the gut persist in tumult, riddled with rawness or overrun by opportunistic foes, the path to endocrine accord grows labyrinthine and steep. To fortify the front, enlist allies in your eating oases, threads of fiber that sweep like benevolent brooms, elixirs of fermentation brimming with probiotic pioneers, cascades of pure hydration that rinse and renew. These infusions not only amplify fasting's alchemy, but cultivate a resonant equilibrium where hormones hum in unified cadence. In the grand architecture of enduring fat dissolution via fasting, the cornerstone is the reclamation of metabolic versatility, that fluid grace by which your body pirouettes between glucose's quicksilver sprint and fat's steadfast endurance. With hormones in poise alignment, fasting transcends mere abstinence to become profound elixir of renewal, mending the fractures of modern excess. When discord reigns, however, every foray into fasting meets the unyielding rebuff of a body in bunker mentality, repelling incursions with fortified resolve. The antidote? Shun the escalation of austerity. Ever lengthier fasts or Herculean feats of fortitude, as futile flailing against phantoms. Instead, venture to the bedrock, unearthing and untangling the entrenched hormonal entanglements that choke the conduit to combustion. As insulin eases its ironclad vigilance, leptin regains its clarion voice, cortisol sheathes its stress-forged blade, and thyroid rekindles its fervent forge, a profound synergy ignites. Your physiology, once a reluctant captive, awakens to its primal prowess, slipping effortlessly into blaze of fat liberation. And there, unbidden yet inevitable, the weight begins its gentle exodus, a cascade as natural as breath itself.